लोकसभा में संसद का कामकाज सबसे ज्यादा ठप रहा।
The opposition has not allowed the issues to come on this house.
House is adjourned.
The House stands adjourned.
22nd April, the budget session of Parliament reconvenes after a month-long recess. The government hopes to push key legislations like Food Security Bill and Land Acquisition Bill in this session.
It is my sincere wish that the House should be allowed to function. If there are any concerns of the opposition, we are willing to debate all those issues which worry the opposition.
Just a few meters away in Parliament, the BJP's parliamentary party meeting is on. It's a strategy meeting.
The minister interferes in the CBI's functioning. This itself speaks of massive cover-up, and that massive cover-up we will unfold before the country through the parliament adjournment notions.
The government, on the other hand, is in a huddle, knows what the strategy should be. It's embarrassed over news of Law Minister Ashwini Kumar's alleged interference in CBI's status report on Colgate.
On most issues, you find a kind of immediacy which smacks of political opportunism. The matter is sub judice in court. So therefore, I think there is a need for circumspection, there is a need for caution, and there's certainly a need not to put the cart before the horse.
Time 11 a.m. Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha reconvene and then adjourn for the day.
From then on, the scenes inside Parliament played out much to one's expectations. For the next few days, there were more adjournments after adjournments, as the principal opposition party, the BJP, made it clear, first resignation and then legislation.
The issues have crossed the boundary of understanding, crossed the boundary of sitting across a table and sorting it out. It's a matter of corruption and monumental corruption.
It's the agenda of the government in power in any democracy. That agenda must be allowed to be moved forward because that's why people elect the government.
So these were issues which have never happened in the past, and the government may have made some canard that they want to run the government, but basically they are also not interested that the government functions, that the parliament functions.
I think the Bharatiya Janata Party and all other political parties need to reflect and introspect that if we continue to believe that disruption is a legitimate legislative tactic, then I'm afraid we are undermining the very basis of democracy in this country.
The Union Law Minister, a moody, outspoken micromanager, loves to defend the government. But here he can be seen ducking, dodging and evading cameras when it came to defending himself.
Let me go to Parliament.
Are you going to resign? There are rumors that you're going to resign. Are you going to resign?
With each passing day and no business in the House, pressure was mounting on the government. Should it keep the status quo or buy peace with the opposition?
What I have in my hand is known as the Statement of Work in the Lok Sabha. On page 2 and 3 of this statement is very clearly written that the total number of hours lost due to forced disruptions and adjournments is 92 hours and 40 minutes, while the total number of sitting hours and the work done during these hours for only about 94 hours and 40 minutes. amongst the lowest number of hours spent during a parliament session. The question and clearly now raising and sparking a new debate. Who is to be blamed for all this loss?
You have the strange spectacle that an entire winter session of Parliament in November 2010 being washed out on the demand of a joint parliamentary committee. And I can tell you that the moment that joint parliamentary committee was constituted, and I was a member of that, a very eminent member of the Bharatiya Janata Party went on record in the JPC saying it's a complete waste of time and it should be wound up. So therefore, the whole conduct over a period of 3.5 years, lays the blame squarely on their door.
The ruling party do not want to involve the opposition, do not want to have proper consultation with the opposition, and they do not take us into confidence about the matters concerning the nation. Secondly, if they don't consult, understandable. They don't consult, but they try to insult also.
Some back-channel negotiations took place to carry out business. Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kamal Nath walking the tightrope, the balancing act of being in control and managing a crisis.
And I will appeal to the opposition that let us transact business. The government is open to discussing any issue in the House. It must happen as per rules in a structured manner.
They say that CBI was influenced, and many people are saying that they're not going to let the House function unless the Law Minister goes.
I don't think that is a valid demand.
Sushma Swaraj has spoken to us and she says that Sonia Gandhi is acting like an opposition leader by directing the government, saying what to do and what not to do.
In no way does Mrs. Gandhi interfere in the functioning of the government.
Talks failed, negotiations didn't work either. Treasury and opposition benches were far from reconciliation. And the list of business piling.
But do you feel that the government has reached out enough to the opposition leaders?
What more can we do? We have made a statement on the floor of the House and outside that we are willing for a debate on any subject. What more can the government do?
Where there is agreement, they don't bring the bill. Where there is disagreement, where there is no proper discussion, they try to push through those bills and then try to accuse the opposition, saying that we are not cooperating.
You hold a government accountable by debating, discussing on the floor of the House, by ensuring that the government answers the tough questions which the opposition needs to ask. Instead of that, you see this demonstration of lungitis, as I call it, on a daily basis, which completely and absolutely derails democracy.
That's an hogwash. They may have been posturing, saying that, look, we want to do this and we want to build. But basically that was just to position themselves that they are playing the role of the government.
Outside the Parliament, CBI filed an affidavit in Supreme Court stating that the Colgate status report was indeed shown to the Law Minister.
It is for the Law Minister, it is for the PMO officials, it is for the Joint Level Secretary of the Coal Ministry to explain to the Supreme Court how such an affidavit is being filed, which is very clearly saying that yes, the sealed cover report of the CBI of 8th March had been shared with them.
3rd of May late evening, as if Colgate wasn't enough, more trouble for the government. Railgate happened.
Pawan Kumar Bansal was summoned. He said that there was no direct involvement as far as he is concerned.
The Railway Minister was actually summoned twice by the Prime Minister of India, Manmohan Singh, at 7 RCR.
By Sunday, cornered from all sides, the government decides to brazen it out.
The decision of the government, and Navika will tell us more on that, is to completely back both Ashwini Kumar and Pawan Kumar Bansal, despite all the charges against them.
The strategy in that meeting will be on how to launch a counter-offensive against the opposition.
For the BJP, it's like having more arrows in their quiver. In the list of people whose resignation the Bharatiya Janata Party is demanding, there is a new entry. And it did not took them more than a couple of hours under the leadership of the National President Rajnath Singh that they will not only limit their protest to the floor of the House in the Parliament, but rather take it down to the streets and try and get support of the masses right behind them. बीमारी हो गई है भाजपा को, भाजपा बीमार हो गई है रेजिग्नेशन मांगने की बीमारी से।
This is a larger issue. I can dwell upon that reasonably, but बीमारी किसको हो गया? तो भ्रष्टाचार उनका ये बीमारी हो गया। तो जब भ्रष्टाचारी बीमारी बन जाए तो उसका इलाज होना चाहिए और उसके लिए दवाई भी देना चाहिए।
The issues that opposition wishes to raise must be debated in the House. The government response has always been, let's debate all the issues. The opposition response is, no, we don't want to debate, because unless you take action against A, B or C, we will not allow the House to run.
On Gujarat, how many times they have disrupted the House? On George Fernandes, they boycotted George Fernandes on so-called Coffin Gate, where there's nothing. And then they boycotted him for 6 months. When it suits you, you discuss in Parliament. When it do not suits you, then you say it's a state issue, you cannot raise it in the Parliament. The opposition is not given its space. The opposition is not given its due. The opposition is not given its respect. That's why this situation has come.
If an opposition publicly, especially the BJP, publicly has stated that not allowing Parliament to run is part of their parliamentary strategy, they consider this as part of the BJP's parliamentary practice, then I think this is a subversion of parliamentary norms.
These are the tactics they are using, sometimes their allies, to disrupt the Parliament and then divert the attention of the people. Sometimes they themselves do it unilaterally, and then sometimes they want to project as if they want to bring a progressive piece of legislation, and it is the opposition which is blocking them.
8th of May, Congress' huge southern victory. BJP's southern bastion crumbled. But here in New Delhi, trouble was far from over. Unable to conduct business any further, the government decided to adjourn the parliament sine die. 2 days before its official close, the session came to an end, but not the government's worries. An angry leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha earlier in the day.
15वीं लोकसभा की सरकार आजादी के बाद इस देश की सबसे बेस्ट सरकार है।
She complains of not being allowed to express her views in parliament.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने ये कहा है कि इस सरकार ने हमारा भरोसा तोड़ा है। सुप्रीम कोर्ट
She alleges that her microphone was turned off.
अपने कमरे में बुला, इसके बाद ये सरकार एक मिनट भी अपने पद पर बैठने का अधिकार नहीं रखती है।
Sushma Swaraj, leader of the opposition, it was agreed upon in all-party meeting with the Speaker, the House, Speaker's chamber, that she will be allowed to speak for 5 minutes, and then they will walk out. Yes. She was not even allowed. And the leader of the Congress party instigates his members to create a ruckus in the House. There are umpteen number of issues like this, I can tell you.
Well, I have tremendous and enormous personal respect for the leader of the opposition. But in addition to institutionalizing disruption as a parliamentary tactic, they have also institutionalized another tactic called shoot and scoot. That say your bit and then walk out of the house and not listen to anybody else.
That day was the decision of the Speaker, and she had to play a very important role. But surprisingly, the Speaker is a person who's supposed to take care of all the political members. But surprisingly, Meera Kumar, pardon me for saying that, she ceases to function as a speaker, but is more seen as a Congress representative. And that is why the speaker refused to hear the leader of the opposition on issue of what they wanted to say, and even the mic was switched off.
आज के बाद स्पीकर साहिबा अगर कोई मीटिंग बुलाएंगी तो ना तो हम स्पीकर की बुलाई गई मीटिंग में जाएंगे और ना हम संसदीय कार्य मंत्री द्वारा की जाने वाली किसी वार्ता में हिस्सा लेंगे। ये सरकार कहती है कि हम हर तरह की चर्चा के लिए तैयार हैं। जिस सरकार में बैठे लोगों में 5 मिनट नेता प्रतिपक्ष की बात सुनने का धीरज नहीं है, वो चर्चा कैसे होने देगी?
Why is the opposition really miffed? And is this really the lowest point ever in the relationship between the treasury benches and the opposition? And inside the parliament, are we really now heading towards the punch and judy type of politics?
Come on, Mr. Hughes, speak it out, come on!
Punch and Judy, a popular puppet show in seaside England. Situations revolve around a violent Mr. Punch and equally responsive wife Judy. In the House of Commons, this is the vocabulary for brash politics involving personal attacks. with the objective of outshouting and insulting one's opponent.
And we not only saved the world, saved the banks and saved the banks and led the way.
Punch and Judy, which you brought this tagline, sir. What did you really meant by this, sir? And what if you could just...
Everybody is sad. Even I am sad. Advaniji is sad about this confrontation, about the stalemate that has come in Parliament. But my point is, it cannot be one-way traffic. The responsibility do not lie with the opposition alone for running the Parliament or having a proper debate. It primarily rests with the ruling party.
So do you think we're heading, towards a Parliament where we're sort of indulging in that Punch and Judy kind of politics, as it is said in the British Parliament, where you're only bickering but you're not really discussing real issues?
But even in British Parliament, this doesn't happen. British Parliament, there are debates. Nobody prohibits or creates a situation in the House that it is not allowed to run.
Punch and Judy politics, something that very personal attacks are given against each other. Is our Parliament also doing something like that, turning into
occasionally,
like
yes.
that?
Occasionally,
but do you think
yes.
that is a good
Occasionally,
practice?
yes. And it's been happening here very often. But when there are personalized issues and whether people who come with a set agenda to be in Parliament, general perception is becoming that. And when you find such people increasing in numbers, that is the annoyance which can be felt in the middle class, that look, politics is, the politicians are not delivering. And I think it's a fact.
At the end of this Parliament session, the government sprung a surprise. Cornered from all counts, the Food Security Bill was introduced. The idea was to down the clamour for resignations with something that would be perceived as more urgent. So was the government successful?
It's a caricature.
Was this a masterstroke?
For that we are working out.
Or is this a failed attempt at cutting losses?
My statement in the morning.
Please side.
I have given my statement in the morning.
Sir, anything to add to that statement?
If you look at the Food Security Bill, in its conception, in its imagination, in its expanse, it is breathtaking. Yeah, and that's why I was constrained to say it seems that the UPA wants to remove hunger and the opposition or sections of the opposition want to remove the hungry.
You see, anything to do with poor, hunger, anything to do with poor is required. The country has not achieved. Whoever may have been government, the country has not achieved. But the problem here is, they are concerned about the hunger of the poor people. Very true, because elections are coming and the Congress party genuinely becomes interested in people prior to the elections. But we are concerned about the hunger of the Congress party to make money.
We are committed to passing these laws and we'll do whatever it takes to ensure that they are passed. And let the opposition then do whatever it wants, because I think the people of India should know on whose side the opposition is. Are they on the side of the people of India? Or are they against the Kisan of India? Are they against those who belong to the less privileged, the BPL category? If they are against the poor and the Kisan, they will pay the price for it.
My point is, we are not here duty bound to support each and every move of the Congress party. If they have mandates, if they have majority, they can bring the bill. They don't do it and they try to criticize the opposition.
The Parliament session may be over, but the politics continues. Each session registering lesser and lesser businesses, leaving the citizen with a simple complaint. In a pre-election year, is one to expect more theatrics in Parliament? Is a frozen session of Parliament a political boon or a curse?